Hey there, everyone, and welcome to what we think is episode 18 of the Water Trio Astrology podcast. I'm here with my dear friends and colleagues, Alicia and Cassandra, and we're going to serve up some insights around the astrology of the week starting Monday, the 11th of March. And we are recording this a couple of weeks in advance, but we do still have Mercury in Pisces while we're recording, and the snafus and the forgetfulness particularly are hilarious. I just prepped the start of the episode and then I didn't say anything because I thought Alicia was introing the show, even though the three of us had discussed 30 seconds prior that I would intro the show, so there was this dead silence. So this is take 2 of this episode through Mercury. I mean, by the time you guys are listening, Mercury is retrograde in Pisces. So there's a lot going on this week, but we've each picked one of our favorite aspects that we've had our eye on to share with you. What are you gals interested in for this week, astro-wise? I know both of you have a lot more to say than that. So,
well, all right, I will do it. I'm going to talk about the Sun squaring Jupiter on the 14th. It'll probably be the 13th in the US.
Canada and the States, yep.
So, Sun is in Pisces, Jupiter's in Sag. So Jupiter is definitely the head honcho of the show, despite the square. So I feel it's definitely, like when I'm talking about squares, I often think of that concept of stretching. It's a bit different to opposition type of stretching because it's a bit more of a flow, I find, with an opposition. It's about either choosing one or the other. But when it's a square, I feel like it's got a grinding type of feel to it where, one planet's trying to go in one direction and another planet's trying to go in another direction. So they're sort of like getting in each other's way. So when we're talking about Sun and Jupiter, we're kind of, they're both really kind of hot planets. They're wanting to be seen. They're wanting to kind of like shine their light and their radiance and what they've got to offer. So, there could be some like a little bit of, tension or needing to make some adjustments around perhaps themes of personal authenticity or what it is that, you want to shine or what you want to kind of get out there versus maybe what you believe you think should be true or ideals, fantasies, kind of when we're talking around the Jupiter Pisces or the Sag Pisces bit there. So I don't think it's, a fatal type of square. I think it's,
no way.
It's definitely, whatever kind of tension or frustration or irritation that you might experience on that day, has a massive potential to lead you to something better than what you thought was going to be the plan on the get-go kind of thing. So it might just be about stretching your idea around something rather than being blocked or what have you. How about you girls? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely don't get blocked out of this square.
Not this one.
Not this one. This is definitely more of a
mutable,
over-exaggeration. Like I think if there's any problem, in air quotes, it's that you've taken on too much or you've bitten off more than you can chew, that You've maybe got this infusion, like an excessive amount of infusion of confidence or belief or that kind of I can do it quality.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm all for that because I think most of us need more of that than not. And so it's probably a good day where people are going to take some risks and maybe go out on a limb. Not everything you take a risk is going to pay off, but I think there's some great wisdom to be gained by the adventures or the experiences that you maybe say yes to or take that leap of faith around. And midweek, I mean, we kind of got the Sun late in Pisces, Jupiter's late in Sag, but yeah, it feels like, Wednesday, Thursday, we might all be putting our hands up for things. You might regret it a little bit later, but there's going to be some great growth, some insight, some wisdom, new understanding that comes as a result.
It's a bit of a, what we'd say in Australia, she'll be right, like don't worry about the details, particularly with that Mercury retrograde in Pisces. Yeah. Just say yes. She'll be right, mate. Figure out the details later. Just say yes. Yeah.
Totally. It's got that winging it kind of energy, doesn't it? Like dive in and worry about how to make it happen after you've already committed to the vision. Sorry,
that's
Lee,
how I live my life.
Say something there, and I'm totally Jupitering this. Totally.
I also think that there's a real magnanimous quality to this, and a generosity that's with this. And I feel like that can actually be where we go too far and we give too much of ourselves, which the transit I'll be talking about in a minute will actually tighten that up a bit. But yeah, it's that feeling of, I don't know, it's like I've just got that image of a puppy bounding into the room, so exuberant and ready for anything. And then there's a bravado and a confidence that we'll feel that day, the morning here in Australia and probably the evening before in the US. And yeah, it's just as well, I think, there was so this is almost an adjustment of things since the conjunction that happened. I think it was on the 27th of November last year, early Sag. So I prepared, knowing of Mercury and Pisces, I prepared.
Good to hear that, Lee.
It's like, when those two were conjunct back in late November last year, whatever area of your life or part of your chart that this is happening in, you might have had some great ideas or some insights or, wisdom downloads, I think you were calling them at the time, Kel, on what is possible. So now it's actually a time of testing that and saying, will that work out? What can I actually do? What's potentially possible with this? Because I think around the same time the sun's going to be sextile Capricorn, is it Pluto? So there will be some, okay, well, this is the reality. This is what you can actually do. So bringing in those, balancing the two, what's the ideal and what have you actually got and how can you work with the two together?
Yeah, that's a great point, Leisha, about how this is sort of a pressure point, if you like, from the Sun-Jupiter conjunction at the end of November 2018. It's like, how far have you – it's almost like a first quarter moon relationship. Yeah, where it's like that, crisis in action. You're doing, how's it working out? What do you need to tweak? Do you need a bit of a course correction? And it does ask so many questions around focus and inspiration and integrity and authenticity. If you don't feel you're in alignment in those areas, just being in alignment with yourself, I think questions can come up around that point in time. And the magnanimous energy, I do often see squares or oppositions to Jupiter as highlighting what I call unreciprocated generosity, where it is this giving. Now, when it's a passing phase, it's just like, okay, you might give a lot and only get some back. Sometimes we're okay to do that because, I don't know, maybe being a Pisces, but I always think, the point is to give. It's not always to receive. Like if you give it, you just give freely. You don't have expectations or attachments to what you give. And as long as you know that, I think, and you know that going in, then the generosity of wisdom or support, like the generosity of wisdom, like that idea of here's what my experiences have shown me or taught me, if that can help you. This feels a lot like mentoring as well, like sharing that. Of course, if you've got a square or an opposition to Jupiter in your natal chart and you've got that unreciprocated generosity theme in your birth chart, that becomes one of your big life lessons, to be more clear or mindful about how and where and when you give. So maybe all of us will be just reflecting on that giving generosity. Am I overextending with some friends or family, or even in a romantic situation where maybe you shouldn't? It's not to your advantage, or you're just being taken advantage of, if you like.
Yeah. There's also that pay it forward idea as well. And I had a story the other night. I was rare night out with my husband. We were grabbing meals at different restaurants to be able to go into the movies, and my Mercury in Pisces banking wasn't working. And so I was desperately trying to call Joseph to come over and pay for my dinner because I couldn't pay for it. And this lovely lady just steps forward and goes, just taps here in Australia, you can just tap your card and it goes through. Just taps her card for me and goes, I want to pay it forward to you because I know you'll pay it forward to other people. And, just out of the generosity of her spirit, she saw me in trouble and she just went, there you go. And that was not cheap. It was $20. And I just thought that was such a lovely thing to do. So it's almost that spirit of giving to something greater than yourself, knowing that flow will eventually come to you. I guess a karma kind of thing that's possible as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, huge. And that's the beautiful thing just give what you can and give it freely, and just put a bit of Jupiter golden sparkle out into the world to the extent that you're able to, I guess.
Yeah. So shout out to that beautiful lady on the Sunshine Coast at Sunshine Plaza the other night for paying for my Vietnamese. I love you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, so sweet. Okay, so Cass, did you want to say anything more on this aspect that you were really excited about?
No, we all kind of covered it all, I think.
Good. I like this. We're whipping along.
So let's roll into Mars trine Saturn, which happens about 8-10 hours later. So that will be the 14th of March for everybody. And yeah, like I am actually looking forward to this energy, just because I do like to have a little bit of focus. And because it's a trine, you know, it's easier to meld these two energies. I know, you know, that Mars and Saturn together are sometimes oppositions. You know, you've got the caution of Saturn and the impulse of Mars. You've got the, you know, the courage of Mars and sometimes the fear that Saturn can hold. And it's kind of able to bring those two together. So it's like true courage comes when you face your fears and move forwards. And, you know, actually when you're feeling a bit stuck, having that impulsiveness or that energy to push you along can really get things happening. Yes, they're both in earth signs, and I feel like that tempers Mars down even more. So I feel like it's actually there's the possibility to really tap in deep with this. And I don't know, perhaps what we were talking about earlier with that Sun, I'm really struggling, that Sun square Jupiter, you know, the enthusiasm and the optimism and the potential with that, this will actually then take that and drive it and really create some structure and some focus on how to take those things forward. So yeah, I don't, you know, it will have a slower and steadier pace, but I feel like it'll really have the power and the drive to get things done in a really disciplined and structured way. So if there's anything specific you want to focus on with this, or you something you really need to give a really good push to, this will be the kind of the afternoon, evening for those in Australia, or the day for those in the US, to really, you know, get the muscle behind it and really give it a good shove.
I love it. Get your muscle behind it. Of course, I can't help but thinking, you know, our dear Cass has a Mars-Saturn aspect, and she loves to get her muscles behind the weights of the gym, as she said.
And not just that, but a Mars in Taurus too. So,
totally. I mean, sorry, go Cass.
Yeah, I don't mind, you know, getting the pump on.
You love it.
Oh, it keeps me sane, you know, like, yeah. But no, it's, you know, when Mars and Saturn are working together, whether it's through square, which I have, or trine, which is happening this week, I mean, what I always find, and I see it in clients too, it's like, you know, there can be that kind of stop-start energy because of Saturn, but when you've kind of got your teeth on the bit, like, you go for gold with it. So, and we got Mars and Taurus, so there is that slow to get started, but you'll see it once you've got your mind made up, or you've, you know, committed. It's like, okay, I'm in it now, and that is kind of how I operate, like, in everything. So, so, you know, if you are feeling a little bit ambivalent, or, you know, a little bit kind of, you know, pulled with the whole Jupiter Sun square Jupiter bit, you know, this aspect is a little bit of a counteraction to that. It's, you know, well, let's just kind of, you know, earth signs, you know, need that kind of, there's a bit of a stripping away of the inessential a little bit with Saturn, well, a lot with Saturn. And then we've got the earth component too. It's like, you know, well, what's really grounded, what's really practical, what is going to build a solid foundation that I can do the Jupiter dreams from. Otherwise, it's just, you know, a whole lot of go and no show, isn't it? So nobody likes that. So a lot of show, no go, whatever it is. So yeah, it's, you know, like, I love it. We've got the promise with the Jupiter, the Sun Jupiter, and then the delivery with Mars Saturn.
Yeah, it is quite a contrast of energies, isn't it? Just like within a 24-hour period, we go from sort of the heights of, you know, optimism with the Sun square Jupiter to Not necessarily. It's not a depths kind of thing because it is Mars trine Saturn, but it is much more grounded and practical. It's definitely like coming back down to reality around what's possible, what's reasonable, what's realistic. I do like a good Mars Saturn aspect for discipline and dedication to get things done. Sometimes, well, I don't know, for me personally, being a bit of a Jupiter person, I definitely have, so many things that I want to do, like all the things. And then, to have these sort of energies that kind of like remind you, look, you can't do that then because you're already doing this other thing just a couple of weeks later. So I think the Mars Saturn is a bit like bringing some quality control into the mix to help you kind of, prioritize or hone your wish list down, if you like, to 2 or 3 projects. The other thing that I can't help but be struck by is Jupiter's in Sag, Mars is in Taurus, Saturn's in Capricorn. Now, neither Mars nor Taurus make a traditional aspect to Jupiter and Sag. So a part of me does wonder a little bit about, like, there's a Jupiter piece going on somewhere, and then there's the Mars Saturn piece, which is like they're not interacting, if you like. And so it's like in one area of your life, it's really appropriate to be quite hopeful or adventurous or even quite optimistic. But there are other topics or other areas in your life where you do need to be a little bit more firm or a little bit more like structured or timely or even deadline oriented. So different day, different energy, but I think it's going to shift our focus from one part of our life to another as well.
Yeah. Good point, Kel. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the images that I have for this Mars Saturn is where I live to be all banana farms and pineapple farms and ginger farms, and we're right on the top of this mountain, and they used to have these huge bullock drays that used to drag things up, and it'd take a long time, but these bulls would just go at it and go at it and go at it all day long to be able to get what they needed to the top, and then they'd rest and they'd go back down again, sleep, and then the next day they'd do the same. And it'd often take them, some of the old farmers around here say it'd take them a whole day to get from the bottom to the top. But it's that ability to really be realistic and pragmatic and slow down, take your time with it. It's definitely not, Rome was built in a day kind of stuff. But it's that extra added oomph to something that we may need. So, yeah.
It sort of reminds me of the 3 rocks analogy, where you choose your 3 biggest rocks to focus your life on. And then the little rocks can kind of fit in around the big rocks, because so really if most people can manage 3 things, pretty well. Like, say maybe it's a relationship, a career, a sideline project, or children, for example. Like, whatever your 3 big things are.
Yeah.
If you start adding more than that, then you've got too many balls in the air. So the Mars trine Saturn can probably help you really define what your 3 big rocks are. And it might mean, okay, well, shifting from the Jupiter, I can do that, to like, or maybe I can do this really well, as opposed to doing this half-assed, if you like. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a Stephen Covey thing, like the 7 habits
the 3 rocks.
Effective people. I think I don't know, one of our listeners might be able to correct us and let us know.
Yeah, I don't.
It's like big rocks and then small rocks, and you've got to do the important things have to come first. They're supposed to get more of your time, because Saturn in Cap is so practical in that regard. Like, it's literally a straight line between top priority and most of your time. But for many of us, that's not what it looks like. So there is a streamlining, simplifying energy that I think Mars trine Saturn can bring in for sure.
Yeah, I just always think the long-term goal and the daily discipline that gets there.
Yes.
It's like, okay, what do I want?
Totally you, Cass. Yeah, and this is like, what's your long-term goal, and then what are you doing every day to get yourself there?
Yeah, and I find, I'm kind of having to, whether it's personal, professional, people at me all the time, what do I do? What should I do? And then I tell them, because I'm a Cancer, and I'll tell them. And then that's like, I expect you to do it. You don't ask whole me, when people ask for advice, but then they kind of like never take it. It's like, well, establish what
did you call it? Ask holing.
Ask holing, yeah. So
I've never heard that phrase before.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
that's this episode.
Well, we've all come across those people who will ask like 20 people, how should I go about something? But then they never take all the advice that they ask for. And that's their choice, but it's kind of annoying when it happens to you. So, but it's like, just choose what it is, your big rock. And it's like, are you actually, doing what you need to do to achieve that outcome? And it's actually being like brutally honest with yourself. If your goal is to like save money, well, why you either got two choices, you either earn more or you spend less, one or the other. It's just so Saturn and Cap, and but it's hard to kind of look at yourself and do those things, and that's kind of what I think trine is encouraging us to do. It's supportive. Okay, well, let's break this down. What's the goal? Let's kind of reverse engineer it, so to speak.
Yeah, totally. And that Mars, like the surgeon's knife, just to get that simplicity, slice away those things that are not needed, so you can focus on those three rocks. I mean, otherwise you're going to end up in that buffet of crazy we've been banging on since we started.
This is I need to focus.
I've got about 10 rocks, so this is new to me. I need to find out what my three rocks are.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the Saturn and Cap, like getting crystal on what is important to you, and if it's not important to you, it's like, what do they say online? See ya, Felicia, or something. Bye, Felicia, whatever it is. It's just that simple.
Yeah, totally. I mean, Cass, I don't even know where you're getting some of these sayings from today. I've like so never heard of them.
But yeah, ask holing, like whenever somebody ask holes me, it's really I'll always help them, but I know what they're doing.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. Okay, well, speaking of such things, word choices and phrases, I mean, is there anything more to say on Mars, trine Saturn? Because otherwise I'm going to move on to our final aspect for the week.
Off you go, Kel.
Get crystal on whatever it is you want.
Get crystal. Yeah, totally. So even though Mercury is retrograde, obviously still making aspects, and coming up on the weekend, I'm having trouble picking between two. Let's go with Mercury-Pluto. I like Mercury sextile Pluto. So that's happening on Saturday the 16th in Canada and the States. And, here's my Australia list here. Mercury sextile Pluto will be the 17th, Sunday the 17th in Australia. So what are the degrees? Mercury sextile Pluto. Sorry, guys. Obviously, Alicia did a lot of preparation beforehand, and I'm 22 Pisces to 22 Cap. So what I like about Mercury sextile Pluto is it does bring clarity. It helps you kind of find out things that you have maybe suspected, or given that Mercury's in Pisces, you might have been feeling or intuiting for a while. And I think because Mercury is sextile Pluto, that's going to be a 3-part process where we're going to get that aspect 3 times. We've already had the first time. I'm going to refer to exactly when that happened. So we can find, it'll be second half of Feb. Here we go. February 23rd, 24th was the first Mercury-Pluto aspect. We're having our second one at the end of this week, March 16 and 17. And our third and final Mercury-Pluto sextile is going to come through around the 10th, 11th of April. So there's this, anytime Mercury's retrograde, if he's making aspects, we will usually get a 3-part process set up rather than just having the aspect as a one-off. So it just helps you put into context that there may be some literally Mercury-Pluto is deep and meaningful conversations. It's conversations or discussions that go below the level that you normally communicate or discuss at. And they can be revelatory in the sense that you're discovering things about yourself or about someone else or about a situation that you didn't know. It's like hidden information. You go digging or you go investigating, a little bit like a dog with a bone, if I borrow a phrase from Cass's playbook. You don't let up. And I think the whole point with Mercury retro and Pisces is you might have been mulling over something, or something's just been niggling at your spidey senses for a while, and this weekend gives you maybe the gumption or the courage to actually start a conversation about it and just see where it takes you. So I do like Mercury-Pluto aspects for discovery and for openness and for increasing depth. One of the things I always think about with Mercury-Pluto is that honesty increases intimacy. So this is the kind of conversation where, you know that saying from a Tom Cruise movie where it's like, I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. And then like this is the kind of aspect where it's like, no, I want the truth. Warts and all. We'll figure out what it means or where we go from here. But it's very much about putting everything out on the table, if you like, laying your cards out. So it'll be a weekend of very deep and potentially fruitful, but certainly eye-opening conversations, at least as I'm reading it. What do you guys think about this aspect? Mercury retro, sextile, Pluto and Cap.
I always think of Mercury, Pluto, Agent Dale Cooper from Twin Peaks. I don't know why. I just always think of that, like, because he was always digging for the truth in that entire series. And
love it.
Sipping the coffee, and they'd be, how do you want your coffee? And it was, as black as midnight on a moonless night, so Pluto, just really wanting to like dig in. And I don't know why I always think about him when I think about Mercury, Pluto, but I do.
Love it. That's fantastic. So he was like the investigator or something?
Yes, he was I think they brought him in from another state to investigate the murder. So he was definitely asking the questions, and he was, connecting the dots, very Mercury, but was sort of like pretending he was kind of like he had that little bit of a trickster quality where he had that sense of humor. He was kind of friending everybody, but with a little bit of a ulterior motive in a way. Yeah, I don't know. I think he really personified that that kind of aspect. And, that's a very old series now, so it might be a little bit new to some people.
We're aging ourselves, yes.
Yeah. And then when he was in Sex and the City, I was like, oh, there's that guy from Twin Peaks. So, so it's fantastic.
Carl McLaughlin, was it?
It was Trey.
Yeah, that's his real name, Yeah, so I don't know. I just
wrapped in plastic.
That's right. So he just had so many one-liners in the show as well. So
very Mercury.
Yeah. It's almost, you can put nearly every astrological aspect down to a Seinfeld episode as well. So that's I was actually thinking about that yesterday. Yeah. So I was thinking about planetary days, and the three of them were going through their feels for each day of the week. And then Jerry was like, a Tuesday has no feel. And then I was like, yeah, because it's ruled by Mars and the night is Saturn. Of course, nobody wants to feel that. But anyway, that's my Mercury Pluto with Agent Dale Cooper.
I love it. What about you, Leish?
For me, I think because of the Pisces factor in there, it's the willingness to be vulnerable with somebody else, to really open up and have those deep and honest conversations. And because Pluto's got that power factor in it as well, it's almost like being willing to, in the open conversations, actually hand your power over to somebody else, and not in a way of, being a victim, but it's like, okay, if I'm willing to step into this space and be vulnerable and really share deeply with you, it's actually not giving you power over me, but it's actually making things more powerful between us because of what we can share and how we can get to know each other, and the intimacy that is possible when those kind of conversations happen. So, and look, this doesn't just have to be, one-to-one. This can even be in a group, in a situation where if everybody's honest with each other and everybody's open and the truth is out there, then real practical decisions can be made going from there, which Pluto and Capricorn is going to love. But, when things aren't based on the truth, it's confusing and it's misinformation, and it's that Pisces side of it. So, yeah, in a positive way is to get into that vulnerable space with somebody, be sensitive, be willing to be open, and then see where it goes and how actually people can claim their own power back from those kind of situations. So, yeah.
Very Brene Brown, isn't it? The whole Mercury-Pluto piece.
As soon as you said vulnerability, I'm like, oh, yeah, we should all just read Brene Brown this weekend.
Yes, exactly.
I just had to
greatly, braving the wilderness.
Yeah, exactly. you know, she's got some great Mercury, Pluto, you know, wisdom bits in those books. So, you know, and it is about, you know, taking that dive. You know, it's like you may not like what you find when you get there, but you'll be better for it for doing it rather than being in that place of denial or what have you. And I just had to Google some quotes from FBI Special Agent Dale Cooper. And I loved that show. I should just rewatch it for the fun of it. I actually don't watch a lot of TV, but when I do, I just have all these like astro downloads. So, and I'm just come out of my Neptune square, so there was a bit of that there.
I'm glad it's not just me that does that. I watch everything through the zodiac. It's crazy.
So one of his top quotes was, "Every day, once a day, give yourself a present." And this might be, you know, as I said, it may not be something that you actually want to get, but I think you'll be better for getting it, like revealing the truth of something that you might have just been glossing over. And, you know, asking for that conversation that you need to have. And if you're not getting it, if like, you know, whether it's in a relationship or in a job or whatever, oh, it's rooster time. It's
I just need to interject on the chicken conversation. So
sure.
The chickens interrupted my astrology podcast show last month as well, which Chris talked about. And then Patrick Watson, another fellow astrologer, has talked about how his wife has moved the chickens. Apparently his office got somehow co-opted into the chicken coop and he couldn't record videos for ages, but his wife has just relocated the chickens. So he's back to video. I'm like, there's a thing. It's a thing. Astrologers have chicken problems.
I was just going to say.
I've now got 3 examples.
It's like you had to have a cat to be a real astrologer. Now you got to have a chicken.
You got to have chickens.
Crazy chicken lady.
Sorry, I had to interrupt on the rooster piece.
No, it was so funny when I heard it. Yeah, and you know, give yourself that present of truth and honesty. And as I said, it doesn't always feel like it's a gift, but once you get to the other side of it, it actually is. And whether it's, you know, a partner or a work situation or what have you, if you cannot be respected and reciprocated that truth, or, you know, someone's avoiding a conversation that you really want to have, then that's telling you a lot in of itself. I learned that personally a couple of months ago.
We all know what that refers to. Well, yes, actually. The funny thing, as you're saying that, Kath, I'm glad you sort of mentioned that, because Mercury is going to get some clarity from dealing with Pluto.
Now, which I'm getting right now.
Correct. And so this is a clarifying, it makes things crystal clear. I see that. I understand that. I get where that person's coming from. Or now I've got the backstory about why this situation has come to be what it is, basically. You may, you know, sometimes when things get clear, I think it's like a moment, because I think Mercury in Pisces is very unclear for the most part, but as it interacts with, you know, certain planets, it dries out a little bit, and that dryness gives us.
I wonder though, because this is Mercury retrograde in Pisces. I wonder whether or not the clarity, I mean, it may be an internal clarity, but it may not necessarily come out until the retrograde goes forward. I don't know. It just...
Yeah, I mean, it may not. I guess I was thinking that, like, this is the second Mercury-Pluto in just, like, a month. And so in some ways it's like revisiting a conversation or a topic or a decision from late Feb, going back over familiar territory, going deeper, getting some more understanding. I don't necessarily think the situation is done, because we do still have that third aspect play out, but it is a retrograde, leash. So I feel like I would love to hear from our listeners as to how this weekend goes. Discussion, planning, clarity-wise. Are you going back over stuff from a few weeks ago? Do you get some clarity? Is there still, you know, work to be done, which would all sort of fit, I think.
In Mercury and Pisces, particularly retrograde, there is a bit of a disconnect between, you know, you're feeling the feels, but you can't apply the logic to it. It's like, you know, it's like it takes a while for the feelings to rise up to the brain, if that makes sense. And then I think Pluto is just going to turn up the spidey feels to maybe like 11, and you may not be able to articulate it yet. You may not be able to fully understand it in of your own self. but those feelings, Pluto is, really kind of deepening all of that stuff. And it may not mean that you can fully get those words to kind of really come out yet, but you can at least sort of, let's just hash this out for a bit. We may not find the clarity or the end point yet or the way forward yet, but let's just kind of just throw our pieces on the table and play with it for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot there. So 3 aspects for this week, I guess, that we have managed to cover in our slightly more structured session than last week's episode. We got very excited. And, of course, this is our first full week, I guess, with Uranus in Taurus. So,
yeah.
It wasn't so Piscean as last week was that.
Thank goodness. So anything else you guys want to say tonight? Anything either about this week's aspects that we've highlighted or stuff you guys have coming up that you want to share with everyone?
I'm still drowning in an ocean of words.
Great.
Very, very happily so.
Excellent.
I even bought a new office chair, so that's helping me.
Excellent. A good chair is important. I bought the 3rd new chair that I bought in the last 12 months. I just kept taking them back, but this one's staying because it's actually good.
You like it? Oh, good.
Yeah, it's a bit sort of weird looking because I think it's probably technically a gaming chair of some kind, but I'm learning that actually they make really good quality stuff for gamers. So my new laptop is actually a low-end gaming laptop and it's very good. You're
still happy with it?
Oh, my God, I love it. Yeah. So
awesome.
I'm in love with it, actually. I'm going to write the people who recommended it to me, the computer guy in Orangeville.
Good to know. I'm up for a new laptop soon.
I don't think I would ever buy like
a standard
regular brand laptop again, basically.
Oh, serious? Wow. Yeah. That's good to know.
It's very light, so it's great for traveling, but it's sturdy. Like it does have that sort of solid, like it can take being thrown in an overhead cabin, or if it's in your carry-on and it falls, like it's not going to break. It doesn't feel fragile. Mm-hmm. It's made of metal, not plastic.
Stainless steel casing, Yeah,
it's very solid. So, Leash, did you have anything to share about this week for everyone?
I am doing, it's probably not exactly from this week, but where tickets are on sale now for a new moon group I'm doing with, it's yoga, art therapy and astrology here on the Sunshine Coast for the new moon in Aries next month. So pop online to my website to come along. It's going to be an awesome afternoon of just connecting and reevaluating, drawing to a close the astrological year that was up until this point and, reopening it with the new moon in Aries in early April. So that's actually going to happen at the end of this month. Sorry, it's on, where's my calendar? It's happening on Saturday the 30th of March.
Fantastic.
Coast. Yep.
That's great. And I am just getting organised for my What Should I Do With My Life Career Life Direction Astrology class, my online astrology class, which is starting on Monday, March 25th. So info for that is on the homepage of my website. So wish you guys all a wonderful week. Always lovely talking with you, Cass and Leash. And we'll be back again next week with another episode for you. But until then, take care, everyone. Enjoy the week and send us a little message via our Facebook page or YouTube or in the SoundCloud chat box, wherever is comfortable for you. Let us know how you're going. We always love hearing how you experience the astrology. So we look forward to talking with you again soon. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, girls.